and visitors risked a violent reprisal for crossing a tribal or clan boundary without this permission, and this is how a welcome to country originated in our culture. Traditionally, being welcomed onto country meant you respected Bunjil's law. Bunjil, the wedge-tailed eagle, is our creator, and Wah the crow is our protector. And as long as you looked after the country, you had access to our waterways and our land resources. And when you enter our country, we ask that you respect our resources, our fauna, flora and water, as they are very special to us. And when you are ready to leave, we ask that you leave it the way you found it.
Welcome to the Council meeting. I'm Councillor Piers Tyson, Mayor of Moonee Valley City Council. We aim to get started every second Tuesday at 6:30 p.m. However, sometimes there are some delays behind the scenes that we need to work through, and we appreciate your patience. You can have a look at our agenda online for all the issues that we'll be talking about tonight, and we look forward to seeing you soon. Thanks. So every second Tuesday we work through our council agenda, and what that means is working through things from procedural, day-to-day issues, financial reports, all the way up to the most important things in Moonee Valley, in Victoria or in Australia. And councillors can put up alternatives to that, can put up our staff officers' recommendation, and we can debate that and vote yes or no at the end of the day. Good evening and welcome to the Council meeting for the 28th of February 2023, which I now declare open. I'd like to extend a warm welcome to members of the public gallery who have joined us this evening, as well as those watching from home on the internet. As well as being live streamed, the video recording of this meeting will also be available on our website, so attendees in the gallery are advised that their presence may be recorded. I also ask that mobile phones be switched to silent mode during the meeting. On behalf of Moonee Valley City Council, I respectfully acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which Moonee Valley is located, the Wurundjeri Woiwurrung people of the Kulin Nations, and pay respects to their spirits, ancestors, community members and elders, past, present and emerging. We also extend this respect to other Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples here today. Item 2 on the agenda is apologies and leave of absence, and as we have a full suite of councillors, we'll move on to the next item, which is the confirmation of minutes. And councillors, can I please have a mover and seconder that the minutes from the council meeting held on Tuesday 14 February 2023 be confirmed? Moved Councillor Bedio, seconded Councillor Sypek. I'll put that to the vote. All those in favour? And that's carried unanimously. Item 4 on the agenda is declarations of conflict of interest. Does any councillor have a conflict of interest in any item on the agenda this evening? Councillor Hodgson.
Thanks, Mayor. I'd like to declare a general conflict of interest for item 9.2 with written notice and reasons provided to the CEO in accordance with the governance rules.
Thank you. Any others? Councillor Nation.
Thanks, Mayor. I declare a general conflict of interest in 9.2, 10.3 and 12.1, all for reasons previously disclosed to the CEO in writing before the commencement of the meeting.
Thank you. Councillor Sypek.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I have a standing conflict of interest in 9.2.
Thank you. Any others? Councillor Sharp.
Thank you, Mayor. I have a conflict of interest in 9.2 due to reasons previously disclosed. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Sharp. We now move on to item 5, presentations. Councillors, do we have any presentations tonight? No. We now move on to item 6, petitions and joint letters. And do we have any petitions or joint letters, councillors? Councillor Isa.
Mayor, I'd like to table a petition entitled Petition for Urgent Consideration for Pedestrian Crossing. We've received this petition with 165 signatories requesting that a pedestrian crossing be implemented as a matter of urgency for safety reasons across Mount Alexander Road in the vicinity of Wintringham Aged Care Facility in Red Rooster. The petition states that the distance between the two closest crossings is too great. These are situated at the corner of Wellington Street, Mount Alexander Road, and the intersection of Multan Street, Mount Alexander Road. People need to be able to access facilities on the opposite side of the road without this onerous distance, and it's proving extremely dangerous. There was a fatality of a pedestrian struck by a bicycle in the first week of February when endeavouring to cross the road. This request requires urgent attention in order to prevent future tragedies. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Isa. In accordance with Governance Rule 62.4, I refer the letter to the CEO for consideration. Do we have any other petitions or joint letters? Councillor Bedio.
Thanks, Mayor. Council received a petition entitled Victoria Street Eucalyptus Tree Replacement. Council received the joint letter from residents of Victoria Street, Moonee Ponds, requesting the eucalyptus trees in the street be replaced with more suitable trees. The petition outlines the issues with the trees, including leaf dropping, gum nuts, tree roots, as well as parking and pruning problems. The residents have requested the trees to be replaced with a different, more manageable tree variety.
Thank you, Councillor Bedio. And in accordance with Governance Rule 62.4, I also refer the letter to the CEO for consideration. Are there any others, councillors? We now move on to item 7, public question time, and we have one public question this evening. Do we have Jad Ranker in the gallery? In that case, I will read Jad Ranker's question on their behalf. Jad Ranker asks, I'm seeing multiple examples where people who are buying older properties, demolishing the house and then leaving the block of land empty for years. This wouldn't be an issue if it wasn't for the overgrown grass and unkempt nature of the vacant land. I'm also finding that people are using the blocks of land as dumping sites. What can be done about this? Also, fences on either side of the property are damaged and it is difficult to get a response from the owner to get repairs done. Should a timeline be placed on these owners to build something on the land? I refer to the CEO to respond.
Thank you, Jack Ranker. Through the Mayor, Council has the power under its local law to ensure vacant blocks of land are maintained in a manner that is not unsightly. Council investigates any such properties that are brought to its attention and has an annual program at the start of summer to inspect all identified vacant properties from a fire safety perspective. Dividing fences between two neighbouring properties is a civil matter between property owners. The Victoria State Government provides useful resources through the Dispute Settlement Centre of Victoria website. As for the timeline for building on the land, Council cannot instruct the property owner to develop the land unless there is a permit associated with the land, in which case, if the time frame specified in the permit expires, the owner would have to reapply, but that still leaves the property vacant as described. Unfortunately, Council does not have the authority to force the owner to develop a vacant block of land. Thank you.
Thank you, CEO. And we now move on to item 8, reports from delegates. Councillors, are there any reports back from delegates? I have one as part of the Metropolitan Transport Forum. General elections for the chair and other executive positions were held, with Councillor Jonathan Marsden from Hobson Bay re-elected as chair. I know councillors around the room know Councillor Marsden and congratulate him on the reappointment. Moonee Valley provided some updates on the Airport West train station, pop-up bike lane program, EV charging, and expanded Better Moves Around Schools program. Any other reports, councillors? If not, we move on to item 9.1, endorsement of Bagaroo Jering Reconciliation Plan 2022-2025 and Reconciliation Policy. Councillors, do I have a motion? Councillor Byrne.
Thanks, Mayor. I would like to move that we defer this motion, defer this report until a future council meeting.
Is there a seconder? Councillor Sharp. Councillor Byrne.
Thanks, Mayor. This is an incredibly important piece of work that's been going on for some time, and some further information came to light quite late for some councillors, and I don't believe that the questions were able to be answered due to time constraints. So I think to ensure that we get that everyone is confident in the information and knows what they're doing, that the best thing to do in this case would be to defer.
Thank you, Councillor Byrne. Councillor Sharp.
Happy to confer with my colleague Councillor Byrne on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Sharp. Would any other Councillor Hodgson?
Thanks, Mayor. Look, I can't support a deferral. I think that the plan, the reconciliation plan and policy have been in many years in the making already. Our previous reconciliation action plan ran from 2016 to 2018, and since 2018 we've been working on this incredible piece of work that has gone through a great deal of consultation, both through our reconciliation working group and with the community through a number of yarning circles and other opportunities that the community's had to provide feedback. I really don't see any reason to defer the decision to endorse the plan tonight, following a round of consultation with the community as per our usual mechanism for endorsing plans. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Hodgson. Would any other councillor like to speak to the motion? Councillor Isa.
I think there's absolutely no need to defer this motion, and I think it's both incorrect and unhelpful to say that new information came to light before the meeting. We've had the papers, we've had briefings. No new information was provided to councillors before the meeting. Councillors are able to ask questions at any time in the lead up to meetings, and none of that was done. This has been out for consultation since the 2nd of December. We've had a statement of commitment at which a quorum of councillors was present, and that statement is contained, it's one of the items in this Reconciliation Action Plan. The consultation received over 9,000 connections with people across Moonee Valley. Only a small number of people responded, indicating that there really wasn't great concern about the Reconciliation Action Plan. There's absolutely no need to defer this. If this council's serious about our commitment to reconciliation, we should be jumping at the opportunity to pass this tonight. And I'm going to take the opportunity both to foreshadow a motion that does pass our Reconciliation Action Plan, and that does so with the full support of this council, for whom we have been on a journey of reconciliation since 2010. We are celebrated in the local government sector for the advances that we have made towards reconciliation. And deferring this tonight just undermines and goes against all of those efforts of staff and of councillors and of previous mayors in this chamber tonight. I'd like to say to the Wurrung people of Moonee Valley, I am sorry. I'm very, very sorry that there's any effort tonight to not pass this Reconciliation Action Plan. I'm sorry for the injustices that are ongoing, and ashamed that Moonee Valley might be contributing to those injustices tonight.
Thank you, Councillor Isa. Would any other councillor like to speak to the motion? Councillor Bedio.
Thanks, Mayor. I concur in many ways with my colleague Councillor Isa in that I believe we have a unanimous support in this chamber for supporting First Nations people and working with the Wurundjeri Wurrung people, and I think our officers have done an amazing job in drafting this reconciliation plan and policy. I do have some further questions I would like to explore, and I note that we did receive a lot of this feedback in further attachments. However, the feedback that's in question, in my mind, wasn't in the forefront of the report or the main report that was tabled in the agenda. And so it was only upon further reading that there was some additional concerns around feedback that's been provided. And I would like us as a council to all feel confident in moving this, because I agree it's a really important piece of policy for us as a council to move. And I think it's something that we should be celebrating. But while there is some misconceptions or potentially some misunderstanding, it's definitely worth moving it to potentially the next meeting of council so that these questions can be addressed and we can look to move this unanimously, I hope. So for that reason, I'll support the deferral.
Thank you, Councillor Bedio. Would any other councillor like to speak? Councillor Nation.
Thanks, Mayor. So I think also there is, I don't think there's any doubt in our council's commitment to reconciliation, and I would think that ensuring we are all understanding of what's before us is important, so we do have a unanimous decision. In terms of the new information, I, without going into specifics, would also say that an alternative motion was circulated only today, maybe 5 hours prior to the meeting, and that obviously contained some a new way forward, and I'm not fully understanding of what that new way forward is. So if that alternative can be fleshed out as well in the next 2 weeks or whatever the deferral is, then that would be beneficial to all of us. So I would just say that new information, in my eyes, was circulated prior to the meeting.
Thank you, Councillor Nation. Councillor Isa.
Can I just seek a point of clarification, please? To the mover, is the deferral based on the new information or based on the alternative motion being circulated today? Or is the deferral seeking to defer point 1, the proposed motion?
Councillor Byrne, would you like to respond?
Well, it can be for both.
Does that answer your point of clarification, Councillor Isa?
No, my question was very specific as to which one, but it doesn't matter. Perhaps wasn't understood.
Would any other councillor like to speak? Councillor Sypek.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. A few years back in a previous council when I was mayor, the decision about Australia Day was brought up many, many times. And I think you might remember Councillor Byrne and Councillor Nation and Councillor Sharp that I introduced the healing ceremony in the morning, if you remember that. And for us to do that, we actually had to get that right 100%. And that came to Chambers about 3 or 4 times. And we wanted to make sure that it was correct. Now, what we're doing here is we're not saying no. What we're doing here is we're actually saying yes, but we're just going to make sure that we get it right. We get the wording right. We get everything right. We can't do this half-cocked. And Councillor Byrne, I know you want to defer it, but I'm just not 100% convinced, but you just need to, in your closing, just let me know. And, you know, like I said, I'm all for it, but if we have to defer it just to get it right 100%, then that could be the trigger.
Thank you, Councillor Sypek. Would any other councillor like to speak? Councillor Adams.
Thanks, Mayor. I'm not going to support the deferral. I think that a lot of work has been put into this by our officers and also our reconciliation working group, which includes respected Wurrung leaders and community advocates, some of which are sitting in the gallery. So I just want to acknowledge the hard work that and dedication that you've all put in, and it's lovely to see you here tonight. I think that this is a very well thought out policy and plan, and I think it would be a shame actually to defer it, so I won't be supporting it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Adams. Councillor Byrne, would you like right of reply?
Thanks, Mayor, and I'll be brief. I don't see any issues with deferring it. My understanding is that there's still some questions to be asked. I might just leave it at that, to be honest. I know it's been foreshadowed, so if the deferral doesn't get up, we can obviously discuss the motion after. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Byrne. I will put the deferral to the vote. All those in favour? That is Councillor Byrne, Councillor Bedio, Councillor Nation, Councillor Sharp, Councillor Sypek. All those against? Councillor Adams, Councillor Hodgson, Councillor Isa, Councillor Tyson. I declare that carried. We now move on to item 9.2, and several councillors have declared a conflict of interest on this item. Item 9.2 is 80 Wilson Street, Moonee Ponds, MV 408/2022, buildings and works for a maintenance facility associated with the Moonee Valley Racecourse. Councillors, do I have a motion? Councillor Bedio.
Mayor, I'll move the officer's recommendation.
Thank you. And a seconder? Councillor Adams. Councillor Bedio, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thanks, Mayor. This planning permit, or this motion, is in support of the planning permit at 80 Wilson Street, which is for a maintenance facility that's associated with the Moonee Valley Racecourse. The maintenance facility that's proposed is located in the spaces that's defined under the approved master plan for the racecourse, and this will be one of the first such changes that are made under this approved master plan that was issued in 2021. I believe it's overall a good outcome and a superior outcome in comparison to what's on site for today, what's on site currently. And I'm excited to see that we're actually going to start getting some development on the racetrack. It's been many years in the works now, and this is the first piece of the puzzle that's needed to activate the rest of the racecourse. So happy to support this, and yeah, hope my colleagues support this as well.
Thank you, Councillor Bedio. Councillor Adams.
Thanks, Mayor. Nothing further to add. Thank you, Councillor Bedio, for your comments.
Thank you, Councillor Adams. Would any other councillor like to speak? Councillor Isa.
So this is the first of a number of applications that will come forward around the special use zone. I appreciate that residents weren't able to, or weren't aware that they were able to look at the plans, and I've been trying to make sure that this is made much clearer on the website so that residents do know that they can at any time ask to see the documents and plans for any application being considered by council. So thank you to those residents who have raised a number of concerns and queries with us over the past few days. In response to these queries, councillors have been advised that the application for the maintenance facility seeks planning approval for buildings and works to an ancillary component of the broader racecourse and is consistent with the Moonee Valley Racecourse Master Plan and the location, excuse me, in the southeastern corner. The primary use of the land remains unchanged and the works proposed are the same as the existing facility, with no land use considerations forming part of the assessment. The application does not enable any activity or function beyond what is currently undertaken on the site, so there'll be no industrial processes, no production of fertiliser, no organic or inorganic chemical activities. So I hope that helps to clarify that for residents. The setbacks as proposed have been assessed as suitable with the proximity to the elevated bridge and retaining walls, the significant separation to the closest dwelling in Patterson Street and no direct outlook to the building form from residential properties. Importantly too, there will be a net increase in tree canopy and a tree management plan has been conditioned in accordance with an arborist report and the required landscaping plan. The applicants also confirmed with us that they will be undertaking a voluntary cultural heritage, I've just forgotten what the M stands for, the CHMP, sorry, and I've just forgotten what the acronym stands for, prior to the construction of the area.
Management.
Thank you. I understand that this may not fully address all of the concerns raised by residents, but the Planning Department will write to residents who've conveyed concerns to Council, and I'm happy to take any further queries as well. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Isa. Councillor Byrne, you are the only one who hasn't spoken. Would you like to? No? Because there is no dissent, I will put that to the vote. All those in favour? And that's carried unanimously. And we'll now welcome councillors back to the chamber. Welcome back, councillors. We now move on to item 9.3, Delegations of Council Review 2023. Do I have a motion? Councillors, do I have a motion? Councillor Bedio.
I move the officer's recommendation.
Thank you. Is there a seconder? Councillor Hodgson. Councillor Bedio, would you like to speak to the motion?
I'll be brief, Mayor. The delegations that we are looking to endorse are required under various pieces of legislation. including the Environmental Protection Act 2017 and the Planning and Environment Act 1987. It provides authorisation and delegation for officers of different management levels to enact certain requirements that would generally be required of council. And yep, just something that we need to do from time to time, and we review these from time to time when legislation changes. But happy to support the officer's recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Bedio. Councillor Hodgson.
Not more to add, Mayor, to Councillor Bedio's comments, just to say that these updates are mainly just minor wording tweaks to make sure that our delegations align with the new wording in those, post those legislative changes. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Hodgson. Would any other councillor like to speak on this motion? Councillor Sharp.
Mayor, can I please ask a point of clarification, and apologies in advance, but if I could please ask a question?
What is your question?
Through you, the note here regarding the administrative power to be delegated is the function of requesting to amend or add a new listing to the National or Victorian Heritage Register. My question is, does that preclude councillors from also making a request should we wish to do so in the chamber?
Can I clarify, is that from the recommendation? What part of the report are you referencing?
I am referencing the information that's been provided to us.
Further information
regarding further information that's been provided to us.
And which part, sorry?
The function of requesting to amend or add a new listing to the National and or Victorian Heritage Register.
Yep, I've found that bit that you're talking about. And what is your specific question about it?
Does that preclude councillors from making requests through the chamber? If that function is delegated?
To a new listing to the National and or Victorian Heritage Register, is that? Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. CEO, do you feel you yourself or officers are in a position to respond?
I'm looking at the Director of Strategy and Planning. Thank you.
Through you, Mayor. My understanding is that the instrument of delegation does not preclude councillors exercising any rights to make a resolution.
Thank you, Director. Does that answer your question, Councillor Sharp?
Thank you.
Did you want to speak to the motion? No? Would any other councillor like to speak to the motion? Councillor Sypek.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is one of the good tools that we as councillors have where we mitigate risk, we mitigate any sort of corruption or anything like that by doing this. And we do it from time to time. And we do it by getting advice from Maddox and getting advice from other sources. And this is something that a council should do, and we really should, this report should be one of our key elements as a councillor to look at and to make sure and you understand what you're voting for here. This is very, very important. And let me just read you a paragraph here. This routine review and update of instruments to incorporate various legislative changes that occur from time to time, as well as alterations to the organisational structure, is good governance practice. Now, there are three good key words: good governance practice. And this will mitigate risk to council in reputation, financial, legal, public interest and operational. Now, that paragraph there is a very, very powerful paragraph. And I think that paragraph there should be incorporated for every new councillor that gets elected, that this should be a part of their little package, and have a good read of this little paragraph, because it makes sense, and it makes sense what we do as councillors. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Sypek. Would any other councillor like to speak to the motion? If not, I will put that to the vote. All those in favour? And that is carried unanimously. We now move on to item 10, notices of motion, and councillors, we have 5 listed on the agenda tonight. Item 10.1, I call on Councillor Isa to present her notice of motion titled Notice of Motion number 2023/11, Road Safety in Mount Alexander Road.
Thanks, Mayor. Sorry, I've just lost the page in the agenda and I can't quite read the screen, so just...
Take your time.
Sorry. Thanks. I'd like to move that Council resolves to write to the Department of Transport and Planning, the Minister for Roads and Road Safety, the Honourable Melissa Horne, and the Member for Essendon, the Honourable Danny Pearson, seeking immediate investigation into and action on pedestrian safety on Mount Alexander Road from Multan Street, Travancore to Moonee Ponds Junction to prevent further fatalities and injuries. Excuse me. The investigation should specifically consider the possibility of installing pedestrian lights, road markings and other measures at the following locations: near Shield Street, Flemington, near Warwick Street, Ascot Vale, near Wordsworth Street, Moonee Ponds, and Padman Lane, Flemington. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Isa. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Sypek. Councillor Isa, would you like to speak to your notice of motion?
Thanks, Mayor. In the past few years, 2 much-loved members of the community have been killed on Mount Road between Multan Street and Wellington Street. One was a cyclist and one was killed in a cycling lane. Another child, who I spoke about early in 2021, Angus, was almost killed outside Reup near Wordsworth Street. In the 5 years to December 2022, there have in fact been 78 incidents causing injuries between Multan Street and Moonee Ponds Junction. And that number of 78 includes one of those fatalities. 40% of these have involved injury to cyclists or pedestrians. And tonight I did table a petition with 165 signatures of people concerned about the pedestrian safety, particularly near Shield Street in Flemington. There are a number of pedestrian crossings that align with tram stops, but not all tram stops have pedestrian crossings to provide safety for people alighting or boarding trams. There's one pedestrian crossing near Ascot Vale Primary School and there's another pedestrian crossing nearer the junction, but we simply need more safe places for pedestrians to cross this busy road and greater safety for cyclists. If not, it's statistically almost certain that more people will be injured or killed. Now, I'd like to ask that in writing these letters, I'd like to ask, in fact, that if time could be taken to make the letters as detailed and persuasive as possible. I'm not worried if the writing of the letters takes a few more days than the 5-day policy in place. I'd actually much prefer the letters to be well crafted and time be taken to put a really compelling case to the ministers and members of Parliament for action, because we absolutely need action on Mount Road to be taken in order to save lives. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Isa. Councillor Sypek.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. And it's coincidental to me that we're actually going to be writing to Minister Horne, because it's an omen. And I'll tell you why. About August last year, I wrote a letter to the previous Minister for Transport requesting help for a keep clear zone in my private life for someone else. And I wrote a letter now to the new Minister, to Melissa Horne, and within 10 days I had a response. would you believe it? She wrote back to me in 10 days saying it will be done by the end of March. They'll paint the Keep Clear zone. So I am in a very, very good mood, and I'm more than happy to support Councillor Isa because I actually drive past this place every day when I go to work. And yes, I see a lot of people, a lot of near misses all the time. So, Councillor Isa, thank you for bringing this to our attention for the community, and I fully support this.
Thank you, Councillor Sypek. Would any other councillor like to speak to the notice of motion? Councillor Nation.
Thanks, Mayor. And look, I do know this area well. I lived off Kent Street on the other side of Mount Road for 4 or so years when I first came to Melbourne, and that Kent slash Mount Alexander Road slash Flemington Road slash Padman slash Wellington Junction is a nightmare. I just, thinking out loud, the strip of Mount Alexander Road from Ormond down to the freeway, we've got the current Travancore local area traffic management.
Excuse me, Mayor, I have a conflict of interest in that matter, and so if that's going to be mentioned, I'll need to leave the chamber, which is quite difficult because I've moved the motion, so I'd appreciate if that could just not be mentioned.
Councillor Nation, did you want to continue speaking to?
Well, I'm a bit confused what I'm meant to do here. Am I not meant to talk?
I might confer with governance for a moment. Just give me a second. Thank you, Councillor Nation, if the time could be paused. I've conferred with governance, and because there's no wording with whatever Councillor Isa has raised, governance wouldn't perceive that as a conflict of interest, that the chamber would have to be left. Councillor Nation, apologies. Please continue.
Thank you. So what I was saying is currently a Travancore local area traffic management plan that I think is coming to us on the website early 2023, and some of the traffic measures that have gone out to the community, especially with Padman Lane, which I think is installed for speed humps.
Please continue, Councillor Nation.
So, can I get some time back? Because
you can have an additional 30 seconds.
So, the point I was trying to make is this actual specific stretch of road is currently under review in the Travancore local area traffic management plan. Now, one of my concerns is that in that Travancore LATAM that's coming to us, it says early 2023, there's some good speed controls for Padman Lane. Mount Alexander Road, there's only a couple of changes. This is what went out to consultation, but there isn't the inclusion of any pedestrian signals. So I'm wondering if we're writing to the Minister to look at pedestrian signals at those 4 sites, whether or not there should be a second point referring those measures to our LATAM study before it then comes to us. Because to me it'd feel a little bit weird that we're writing to the Minister saying this is urgent, we want to do this, and obviously it's very important, but then we're going to move a LATAM in potentially a month's time and it doesn't have any of those measures. But I'll leave it there. Maybe Board Council might want to do it.
Thank you, Councillor Nation. Would any other councillor like to speak to the motion? Councillor Hodgson.
Just look really briefly to say I'm in full support of this notice of motion, and I note that there are a few traffic-related notices of motion coming tonight. I'm not sure what is going on the roads. I know there are trends with post-COVID, more people driving cars, and recent media around that causing traffic congestion. But obviously, anything that we can do as a council to make our residents and road users, with whatever mode of transport they're using, safe on the roads is something that I support. And it's very troubling that there have been a series of accidents that's triggered a bit of a waterfall of noms tonight, but I think it's great that we're keeping our eye on things and making sure we're doing everything we can to improve the situation. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Hodgson. Would any other councillor like to speak? I haven't heard dissent. I haven't heard dissent to the motion, so I will put that to the vote. All those in favour? That is carried unanimously. I now call on Councillor Byrne to present her first notice of motion, titled Notice of Motion number 2023/12, Road Safety Concerns at St Martin de Porres Primary School, Military Road.
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to move that Council resolves to 1. Note the letter received by the student leadership team from St Martin de Porres in relation to their traffic and safety concerns, and 2. Write to the Department of Transport and Planning, the Minister for Roads and Road Safety, the Honourable Melissa Horn, and the Member for Niddrie, the Honourable Ben Carroll, seeking to engage and work with the school to investigate potential options to improve pedestrian safety at St Martin de Porres Primary School on Military Road, Avondale Heights.
Thank you, Councillor Byrne. Is there a seconder? Councillor Sypek. Councillor Byrne.
Thank you, Mayor. Firstly, I would like to sincerely thank Alessandro, Alessia, Christopher, Delphi, Raphael, Scarlett and Zara for sending through a letter, who are the student leadership team, and they sent through a letter about 2 weeks ago in regards to a significant concern that they're having. And I have timed this, and I believe I have time to read it out, so everyone's aware of what the letter says. So it says, we are the student school leaders at St Martin de Porres for 2023. We would like to bring to your attention a matter of great concern to our school community. Once again, a child was put in grave danger while using the pedestrian crossing near our school entrance, 158 Military Road, Avondale Heights. This was because an adult, probably a parent of one of our students, driving the vehicle out of our school did not concern him or herself about abiding by the rules and allowing the pedestrian to cross safely, with the help of the crossing supervisor who was, by the way, on duty at the time. This was incredibly dangerous, as the poor child could have been killed or seriously injured in the incident. We're not sure if it's impatience, carelessness or thoughtlessness, but unfortunately this has happened before. It is truly shocking that a fully grown driver would not think twice about a student's safety. Our student leadership team has thought it through and would like to request extra safety precautions to ensure the safety of everyone using the pedestrian crossing. Some ideas we have to prevent these incidents are including a speed bump near the crossing or at the entrance to our school, adding speed limit signs and installing cameras to record and perhaps fine erratic drivers. The cameras could help catch the drivers and punish them for their thoughtlessness actions. Maybe we could install an arrow light to ensure pedestrians are not crossing at the same time as the drivers trying to depart from our school. We have spoken with our acting principal, Mr. Breyer, who has spoken with the police about this matter. We implore you to take action before there is a fatality. Yours sincerely. So that was the letter that was sent on the 22nd of February. And as I mentioned, thank you very much to the student leadership team for writing this letter. We ask so much as a council to our younger people in our municipality to please let us know what is of concern to them. And so I think that it's great that they have written to us to say this is a big issue in their mind and they really want some help. What this notice of motion is doing is absolutely acknowledging the letter that they've sent, And we're going, if this motion gets up, is writing to the people who are more in charge of the actual outcome that can happen here. Military Road isn't one of the roads that we look after, but in saying that, we can still help out with this. My initial thought was that perhaps we could have a working group, which potentially could still happen, and it could involve the local member. I'm sure Minister Ben Carroll would love to be involved as well once he's aware of this issue, but obviously with the notice of motion we're not allowed to put anything that would incur a cost on council. So at this point it's just to write to various people and to acknowledge the letter. I do understand that they are tuning in tonight or perhaps tomorrow at school to hear how this goes, and obviously if anyone from the school or the school community would like to hear more about this motion or have a chat or see what other steps they can take or what we're doing as a council, please feel free to reach out. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Byrne. Councillor Sypek.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I fully support this letter from the kids, but I have seen this letter 30 years ago when Bob Sercombe was the minister, or when Bob Sercombe was the member for Parliament back then. I have seen letters like this nearly every second or fourth or fifth year. And you know what happens to them? Nothing. We write letters to the government, nothing happens. Nothing happens at all. You know why? Because we're not at the Paris end of Moonee Valley, Mr Mayor. We're not the Paris end. But you know what? What do? This is an arterial road. This is a road that council doesn't look after. This is a road that's solely a state responsibility. And what do they do with us? They gift us with a speed and red light camera down Canning Street when it would have made perfect sense to put the speed and red light cameras in front of a primary school. But no, what do? They put it at the bottom of a hill to catch anyone who's going to go 63, 64 and make sure it's nice, a little revenue raiser. Why don't we write the letter saying, move those cameras up to this area here, because it makes sense. It makes perfect sense, Mr Mayor. We have had so many letters of this. So many. I've got people in their 30s, they were writing letters like this to council, but you don't write to council, you've got to write to the state government. It's their road, it's not ours. More than happy to support this, but I think this is just going to be another one of those letters that somehow disappears and falls into the shredding machine and we don't get nothing. But like I said before, Minister Horn wrote back to me in 10 days, so I have, my faith in humanity, my faith in state government has been resurrected again because of this letter that I got in 10 days' time. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Sypek. Would any other councillor like to speak to this motion? If not, I will put that to the vote. All those in favour? And that is carried unanimously. And I'd also like to thank Alessandro, Alessia, Christopher, Delphi, Raphael, Scarlett and Zara, and we're looking forward to meeting with you soon. We now move on to Councillor Byrne's second notice of motion, titled Notice of Motion number 2023/13, Highball Stadium Public-Private Partnership. And I understand Councillor Nation has declared a conflict of interest for this item, so we'll give him a moment to leave the room. Councillor Byrne.
Thanks, Mayor. I would like to move that Council resolves to prepare a report prior to May 2023 listing potential opportunities for a public-private partnership of a Highball Stadium on council land and the steps council would need to take to consider these options. This report does not need to be a separate report and can be incorporated within another report due to come to council.
Thank you, Councillor Byrne. Is there a seconder? Councillor Sypek. Councillor Byrne.
Thanks, Mayor. I didn't know whether I would need this notice of motion, but I wanted to put it in to ensure that when this council is making some very difficult decisions on the future of Highball within this municipality, we have all of the information available to us. I think that having the option of a public-private partnership isn't necessarily the way we'll go, and I don't want this notice of motion to be interpreted that way. There's obviously various ways that a Highball Stadium can be built and managed, but this is one of the options that if we don't go down every single avenue and we don't manage to build a Highball stadium, then I think we will regret it in the long term, in the short term too. This is an article here from the Aberfeldy Jets, which was in November 2019, and it made front page of the paper, of the local paper, when we had the local paper, and it gained a lot of traction, both mainly online. And basically, I'll read a tiny bit out, which is the Aberfeldy Jets basketball has no home base and has been forced to turn players away due to a lack of facilities in Moonee Valley. They're fed up and asking for a Highball stadium, but there's hope on the horizon. The Aberfeldy Jets court shortage subcommittee member David said the club used 22 courts across 11 venues for Saturday games. Our families are forced to drive all over northern and western Melbourne because we don't have enough courts in Moonee Valley, he said. This is difficult, costly and unfair on our family. The club, which has 1,000 members, and obviously this is from 2019, has been forced to turn potential players away due to the lack of facilities. Because we don't have enough courts, our association is forced to put a cap on our entire junior competition, restricting the number of children who can play, he said. We have 200 plus children on a wait list because there aren't enough courts for them. Now, this was back in 2019, and I suppose all councillors, we've had an election since then. There was quite a few councillors that went to the election and spoke about Highball and what we could do with this. And I'm very mindful that an article very similar to this might come out in the future saying, what are we doing, Moonee Valley? Are we actually going to do this? Are we not going to do this? We've got some big decisions to make. I want to make sure we have all the information in front of us to be able to make them. And that's why I'm putting forward this notice of motion. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Byrne. Councillor Sypek.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is a very, very good issue. And not only for the Aberfeldy Jets, but we've got other clubs also that haven't got home. So this is not only going to just be a one-club stadium, this is going to be a multi-club stadium. And I'll tell you why, Mr. Mayor. I was at a wedding on Saturday night, and I think 3/4 of East Keilor was there because every second person lived in East Keilor. And so it was a very local wedding. But do you know how many times I got cornered and asked about Highball? When are you going to build a basketball stadium? When's the basketball stadium? That and getting rid of the speed cameras down at Canning Street were the two main things that were actually drilled into me. So it's quite coincidental that St Martin's came up and now Highball's come up. And then I got the letter from Minister Horn as well for my own private one, which is fantastic. So this is a great omen for me. I'm actually having a ball tonight, Mr Mayor. But look, I am all for this. We need a basketball stadium. We need a Highball stadium, not only just for basketball, netball, disabled basketball. There's multiple uses for it. We, in Moonee Valley, do not have a Highball stadium. I'm happy to support this and happy to because this is what the community wants. This is what the community has been asking for. And we now have to somehow find it in the budget, or we have to find it some way, whether it's a private-public partnership, whether we find it in our budget, or there could be other options. I don't know. I look forward to the report from the officers to see what's the best way forward. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Sypek. Would any other councillor like to speak to this motion? Councillor Isa.
Mayor, I'd like to move an amendment, please, to insert the words, that Council resolves to prepare a report prior to May 2023 outlining advantages and disadvantages to Council and listing potential opportunities for a public-private partnership. So it's inserting the words outlining advantages and disadvantages to Council.
Thank you, Councillor Isa. Is there a seconder? Is there a seconder? Councillor Adams. Councillor Isa, would you like to speak to your amendment?
Thanks. My concern with this motion was just that it assumed the wording of it, I should say, seemed to assume that public-private partnership would necessarily be advantageous for council. It didn't open up an exploration or investigation of whether in fact that would be a sensible and prudent and financially responsible option with respect to the building of infrastructure. And in making any decisions about the building of a Highball stadium, we're all aware of the need and we're all aware of the concern that expressed by a number of residents around the facility being provided. As a council, our number one obligation as a board of directors is to ensure the financial sustainability of the organisation so that we can continue to provide a whole range of services to residents and so we can stay solvent. So in looking at any model of financial arrangement for infrastructure, it's really important that we be provided with information around the advantages and disadvantages of any financial arrangement. And my concern, as I say, about the motion was that it didn't necessarily seek that preliminary assessment as to whether that a public-private partnership would be advantageous to council. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Isa. Councillor Adams.
Thanks, Mayor. I was happy to support the amendment. I think that the advantages and disadvantages probably would be discussed if there were options put forward, I guess, on individual cases or proposals, of course. But yeah, look, happy to support it at this high level. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Adams. Would any other councillor like to speak to the amendment? Councillor Bedio.
Yes, thanks, Mayor. I'm happy to support this amendment. My assumption was that this probably would have been included in any such report anyway. But I think that it's advantageous to specify this because my interest in supporting this motion and this amendment is that as a council we need to be looking at other methods to fund our capital works budget, our capital works requirements, because currently our access to capital does not meet the requirements for new buildings for our residents. So happy to support this, and hopefully this report could set a precedent for new developments moving forward.
Thank you, Councillor Bedio. Would any other councillor like to speak to the amendment? Councillor Sypek.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. First, I'd like just a point of clarification to the CEO. When officers write a report, do they actually do pros and cons?
CEO, do you feel in a position to respond?
That really depends on the topic and the situations, may or may not. Thank you. Susan May.
Thank you.
I didn't...
Councillor Sypek, the CEO said it depends on the situation report. It's a broad question. Do you have anything else, or would you like to speak to the motion?
Yeah, I'm happy to speak to the motion. Look, all the reports that I've read over the years comes with pros and cons. You know, like, our officers do thorough reports. And look, I don't mind spelling it out and putting it on paper, but I just don't want to insult the intelligence of our officers, right? Because I know they do this, but I'm happy to support this because it does actually specify, the pros and cons. It might actually bring up some extra information for us to look at, so I'm more than happy to support the amendment.
Thank you, Councillor Sypek. Would any other councillor like to speak to the amendment? If not, I will put that to the vote. All those in favour? That is Councillor Adams, Councillor Bedio, Councillor Byrne, Councillor Hodgson, Councillor Isa, Councillor Sypek, Councillor Tyson. All those opposed? Councillor Sharp. I declare that amendment carried to form the substantive part of the motion. Would any councillor like to speak on the substantive motion, noting that Councillor Byrne and Councillor Sypek have spoken as mover and seconder. Councillor Adams.
Thanks, Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Byrne, for bringing this motion. Very happy to support public-private partnerships of any form for any of our part of our capital works program and explore those opportunities. I don't think that we've done that enough at council. So, and I think there's definitely potential with something like this project that we simply just can't afford on our own at this stage or without a lot of investment and borrowings. So yeah, really happy to explore this as an option and looking forward to seeing what the report says. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Adams. Would any other councillor like to speak to the motion? Councillor Sharp.
Thank you, Mayor. Certainly happy to support Highball and Councillor Byrne's endeavours to keep this on the radar, absolutely. And I know that the article that Councillor Byrne mentioned I think it was back in 1819 when I was mayor at the time, and I certainly announced that we had a location for Highball, so that's how long it has taken. And now we're in 2023. Still not deciding on what we're actually doing, which is probably the most frustrating part for myself, and I'm sure it is for all of us around the table. But I think I'm concerned, I guess, with this motion tonight, just because, well, a couple of reasons. We do have a live motion from October 21, which again tells us all that this issue has hung around far too long and needs to be. We need to bite the bullet and make the tough decisions. But back in October 2021, part of a resolution that actually stated authorise the Chief Executive Officer to continue to investigate other potential sites and partnership opportunities to support the demand for indoor sports courts locally. So, for my understanding, we are already doing what this motion is requesting, but because it states in the motion and reflects on council lands, there's a lot of balls juggling in the air with Highball, and without divulging anything confidential, obviously we've gone out and flagged Queen Grove as a location where we could have it because we're a landlocked municipality. That's the council land that we're talking about. We do have another offer on the table that has come to us that is a potential PPP. So rather than fluff around at the edges all the time about, what can we do on this and what can we do on that, can we just actually make a decision about building Highball and where we're going to build it? And I'm concerned that this motion, although I know the intent is, to push it along and keep it on the radar, I don't think it's ever going to go off our radar, but I don't want to see the process delayed. We need to make, unless we start making big decisions around this table, this entire 4 years will be known of a councillor that has achieved very little.
Write letters.
And, we've always been able to say over our terms that we've at least achieved something.
Councillor Sharp, your time.
Sorry, could I please have an extension? I hardly speak. Can I please have an extension?
30 seconds.
Anyway, so there's a few issues around this for me as it stands. I don't want the matter delayed. I'm concerned that it can potentially be delayed. We've already got a live motion talking about PPPs. We've already got other options. Whatever option we choose, we need to understand it fully, comprehensively, and make the big decisions. And I can't support this motion tonight only because, as I said, I don't want it to be delayed. Just let's decide on what we're doing with Highball so everybody knows. That's pretty simple.
Thank you, Councillor Sharp. Would any other councillor like to speak to the motion? As there has been dissent, I'll ask Councillor Byrne if she'd like to provide a right of reply.
Thanks, Mayor. I will. I actually agreed with a lot of the things that you said, Councillor Sharp. I suppose a couple of the things would be that this doesn't preclude anything else in terms of other partnerships being put into future reports. It definitely wasn't the intention. It was just to ensure that this occurred. The date that I put on this was May 23, and the reason why is so that it comes prior to the budget, the endorsement of the budget. These conversations, I think people know, and as been mentioned around this chamber, is probably going to occur in and around this budget this year, potentially. One thing that I disagree that Councillor Adams said was that we can't afford it. We absolutely can afford it. There's no questions about that. We have a $200 million budget. It just means what we're going to, if we want to prioritise other things instead of this. We may not want to. This may mean, if something like this was to get up, it might mean that we get some money from another source and therefore we don't need to reprioritise things as much. I think that this community has been strung along for a very, very long time. And I want to make sure that when we're making a decision, a big decision come budget time, we have as much information. And you know what, if this doesn't get up by May 23 or if it doesn't get up tonight, we're probably still going to make a decision, but this notice of motion will at least give us a little bit more information, potentially, of what we could be working with. That was the intention of it, and I hope, councillors support it. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Byrne. I will put that to the vote. All those in favour? And that is Councillor Adams, Councillor Bedio, Councillor Byrne, Councillor Hodgson, Councillor Isa, Councillor Sypek, Councillor Tyson. All those against? Councillor Sharp. I declare that motion carried. We'll invite Councillor Nation back to the chamber. Welcome back, Councillor Nation, and 10.4 is a notice of motion from Councillors Adams, Nation and Sharp, and their notice of motion is titled Notice of Motion number 2023/14, Road Safety at the Essendon North Junction. As there can only be one mover, I call on a councillor to move this notice of motion.
Thanks, Mayor. If
Nation.
you just wait for my internet to reconnect as I plug in.
I have a paper copy if you'd like it, Councillor
That's
Nation.
right. I've got signal. Thank you, Mayor. So I'd like to move that Council resolves to 1, write to the Department of Transport and Planning, the Minister for Roads and Road Safety, the Honourable Melissa Horn, and the Member for Essendon, the Honourable Danny Pearson, seeking an urgent meeting to discuss the Essendon North Junction roundabouts following a number of incidents over the past month, and 2, note Council's advocacy for improvements at the intersection and previous commitments from former state government ministers.
Thank you, Councillor Nation. Is there a seconder? Councillor Sharp. Councillor Nation.
Thanks, Mayor. So, look, this is yet again another road safety notice of motion, and it's kind of tragic when we have to bring these to council, because it usually means there's been a significant enough incident that we as a council think that there needs to be urgent change. Yesterday, when I was going through my notes for preparing for this notice of motion, I managed to find 5 or 6 newspaper articles from over the past decade referencing issues at the Essendon North Junction roundabouts and people advocating for improvements. Nothing has really happened at these roundabouts, and the reality is that we've had 2 very serious accidents in the past month. There's been a number more of smaller accidents that have occurred in the past month as well. The first article I found was from 2016, and it discusses the chaotic Essendon junction that poses potentially fatal risks, traders say, and how we know that has been the truth on multiple occasions since this article was written. It talks about traffic lights that were installed at the intersection in 2007-8. However, with pedestrians, a tram running through, different sets of lights, slip lanes, traffic coming off a freeway. Laura Taylor, who then was with the Essendon North Traders Association, was quoted in the paper as saying, "Someone will be killed here one day." The article also talks of Essendon State Labor MP Danny Pearson, who called on the Minister for Roads and Road Safety, Luke Donnellan, to meet with traders, the council and Vic Roads to discuss options for the dangerous intersection. It also talks about council's advocacy. That was 2016. We're now 2023, and other than some really minor improvements, nothing has changed. In 2018, there's an article, or 2019, there's an article, Black Spot, Traders Call for 2 Mount Alexander Road intersections to be upgraded before they cost lives. Again, since that article was published, the roundabouts have been responsible for costing at least 2 people their lives. It details how 25 accidents were recorded at the main roundabout in just 5 years, and it also discusses the nature that both the roundabouts have pharmacies, have medical centres, have banks, have an Australia Post, have services that a lot of our elderly population value so much and walk to or utilise. However, they do need to traverse the different sides of Mount Alexander Road to be able to access those services. This article also talks about how there will be advocacy and how council will be speaking to the relevant ministers, but nothing has changed. There's another article, it's a recent one which obviously details a very serious fatality, and you can find other references to it online under the most confusing intersections frustrating Melbourne drivers, and is this Melbourne's most confusing junction? The time to stop having people standing up and saying, do something or someone will be killed, that time has passed. We've had commitments from state government ministers in the past that they will look at solutions. Council's been advocating for solutions under previous mayors. We did have the Minister for Roads, who's now in a different portfolio, with an office that is literally on Keilor Road. Like, he would literally have to drive through that intersection if he's accessing Moonee Ponds or the Essendon area. So something needs to be done. The time for talking or letter writing, I feel like, has passed. This motion is calling for an urgent meeting. The Mayor, the CEO, the relevant minister, the local member, and let's actually please look at some solutions, because we know there are serious issues. I know it's not pretty to spend millions of dollars upgrading an intersection because you don't get a plaque or get to cut a red ribbon, but this needs to be done, and I seek my fellow councillors' support to please make sure it is done. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Nation. Councillor Sharp.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Nation, for bringing this to us tonight, and for all the statistics and information on previous newspaper articles and report. It certainly is an issue that hasn't gone away because nothing's been fixed. And in the interim, we've lost lives, and they've been local people as well. So we need to push as hard as we can to get a solution here. I know the Essendon North traders have been agitating as well. They haven't had much traction or much response, but I was really, I don't like to see news reports about what happened, but at least there was a news report about what happened to that poor lady, because it brought the issue about the entire situation, that just disgraceful roundabout, to everyone's front of mind. And since then, there has been further injuries. I was contacted by an Essendon North woman that was involved in an altercation with a car just last week, I think it was. I was sent a photo of the ambulance and the like. So the issues occur every day, and I'm thankful that the motion talks about having a meeting, because, as Councillor Nation said, the time for letter writing has ceased. Now we really need to see action. And the community is certainly all on board with it too. So we just need to get some traction, get some action, and get a proper solution there. I think, I'm not going to propose what the solution is, just needs to be, there's the whole 2 roundabouts need to be looked at holistically and fixed. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Sharp. Would any other councillor like to speak? Councillor Adams.
Thanks, Mayor, and thank you to my colleagues for moving this motion. I firstly would like to express my sincere condolences to the family of the lady that passed away recently at this junction. The recent regular incidents at this junction are really concerning. As a council, as my colleagues have mentioned, we have been advocating for improvements here for years. The intersection is confusing, dysfunctional and dangerous, and it must be improved urgently. So I'm looking forward to joining my colleagues to speak with the relevant ministers and hope that improvements can be made to prevent future tragedies. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Adams. Would any other councillor like to speak? Councillor Sypek.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm really upset about this, really upset. We have advocated so many times, and what Councillor Nation said has now come true. Now, let's make this very clear. We have written to the Department of Transport about these 2 intersections, and this must be the Bermuda Triangle of transport, because every time we write, nothing happens and it just disappears. Well, I don't know what we have to do. Do we have to bring Sushi Mango here to make a little video and get some influencers over here to get some traction on this? Because this is what we need to do. We now have to think outside the square. Writing letters, how many trees have we cut down writing letters over the years over all these issues? And at the end of it, it is not a council road. It's an arterial road, which is the responsibility of the state government. Now, let me give you 3 numbers, Mr. Mayor. 69, 28 and 3. And you know what they represent? For every dollar that we pay in tax, 69 cents goes to the federals, 28 cents goes to state, and we get 3 cents. And we're lucky to get that. And then what happens? Cost shifting gets put on that. So you might as well take away another 1.5 cents out of it. And what do? All we can do is write letters. But we need to do something different now, because this is enough. We cannot be responsible, and we are not responsible for the loss of these lives. These lives are absolutely devastating to me when I found out about it. Absolutely devastating. And it should never happen again. Never.
Thank you, Councillor Sypek. Would any other councillor like to speak to the motion? Councillor Bedio.
Thanks, Mayor. Happy to support this, and thank you to the Buckley Ward councillors for bringing this to council. It is really disappointing to see how often and how long we've been advocating as a council for change in this roundabout. And I remember last year when Councillor Byrne and I were the Mayor and Deputy Mayor, we met with many ministers over the course of the year, and we also advocated for funding and for immediate remediation to this site. I was actually driving home from the airport yesterday and saw car parts on the road, so I assume there potentially was another crash there last night. And I think the thing is we only hear about a lot of the fatalities, and a lot of the incidents that occur there happen quite regularly and they might not get reported on. So it is a very dangerous intersection, and it's definitely something that needs to be immediately remediated. Again, it is really disappointing though to see the lack of funding that we get in Moonee Valley for road networks for our transport. And I really hope that the Labor government can respond to this letter in due course and meet with us and do something about it once and for all. So thank you, Buckley Ward councillors, and I'm happy to support.
Thank you, Councillor Bedio. Would any other councillor like to speak? Councillor Hodgson.
Thanks, Mayor. Look, I agree with everything that's been said around the table. I just wanted to add an additional point, hopefully not invoking the ire of Councillor Sypek on the cost shifting question, but we all received an email from a resident recently who drew attention to the landscaping on the intersection and potential that is encroaching on lines of sight around the intersection, and I wondered, I'll just add as a comment out there that perhaps through the letter or urgent meeting we could raise that as an immediate step that can be taken to remediate some of the issues. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Hodgson. Would any other councillor like to speak? Councillor Byrne.
Thanks, Mayor. There used to be a saying going around Moonee Valley that if you live in Moonee Valley, you know someone or someone you're related to works at Moonee Valley Racecourse because they hire so many people and so many people have a connection to it. And I think that still stands. But now it's, you know, someone who has been affected by an accident at this roundabout. And that's not something to be proud of and not something that we want to have as a council. As Councillor Bedio mentioned, we worked pretty hard on trying to get an outcome for this intersection at the last state election, particularly having the Minister for Roads at the time, being familiar with the area. Unfortunately, it didn't come to fruition. It's obviously a massive job, but that doesn't mean that it shouldn't happen. And it is really sad that a life, again, has been lost. I agree with most things that, just about everything that has been said around the table, and thank you to the Buckley Ward councillors for bringing this up. I know in the paper I was quoted as the angry former mayor, but I can guarantee that there are lots of angry former mayors in regards to this because I know everyone's worked really hard to get an outcome. I do want to highlight that a petition was started by Hamish Jones a few days ago. It's change.org. It's called Fix the Roundabouts and Intersections at Essendon North. 443 people have signed it so far, just in a few days, and it's addressed to the Mayor, Danny Pearson and Ben Carroll. It basically says what we've said in this chamber, but sometimes maybe if they're not listening to our letters, Councillor Sypek, maybe they'll listen to thousands of angry residents, because I know that there's definitely that sentiment in the community, and it's just a shame that another life has been lost before we can get this fixed. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Byrne. Any other councillor? I will put that to the vote. All those in favour? That's carried unanimously. Item 10.5, I call on Councillor Nation to present his notice of motion titled Notice of Motion number 2023/15, Neighbourhood Spirit Award Review. I do have a paper copy if you require it, Councillor Nation.
Internet signal is, the 5G signal is fine. I would like to move that Council resolves to review the current arrangements for the presentation event of the Neighbourhood Spirit Awards, with consideration given to returning to the format of previous events, in brackets Clock Tower in 2021, Queen's Park in 2022.
Thank you, Councillor Nation. Is there a seconder? Councillor Byrne got there first, I think. Councillor Nation.
Geez, I wasn't going to even speak on it, but now I'm a little bit worried. Look, this is a brief motion that hopefully gives the organisation some guidance to look at options for our Neighbourhood Spirit Awards. We have had non-existent ceremonies in 2020 that unfortunately Mayor Byrne wasn't able to hold. We enjoyed a non-lockdown window in 2021 where we had an event at the Clock Tower to celebrate the fantastic individuals doing work in our city and who we recognise with Neighbourhood Spirit Awards. It was a smaller event in Queen's Park in 2022, but now that we are back to staging large events, this motion just asks for the organisation to look at the options of returning to a format of an event that does justice to the quality of individuals and the sacrifices they make, and the reasons why they are presented or awarded with Neighbourhood Spirit Awards. There's no need for a report to come back to council. Hopefully, if there is a consensus around the room, this just gives the organisation a bit of guidance. On the note of the Neighbourhood Spirit Awards, nominations, I believe, are currently being taken or will shortly be taken. And it's a fantastic opportunity to think about the people that impact and positively affect your life in the city of Moonee Valley. You might call them your unsung heroes. We call them our Neighbourhood Spirit Award recipients, but just people who go above and beyond to make it a great city to live, work, play, shop, volunteer, or all of the above. If you're interested in nominating someone for the Neighbourhood Spirit Awards, just have a look at the Moonee Valley website or on our social media, and you'll be able to find how to nominate a person or people or businesses, if they do that, or organisations. I'm not sure the current format, but it'd be good to see. But yeah, I just ask councillors for your consideration to think about giving the organisation some directive to recognise these recipients in a format similar to what we've done in previous years. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Nation. Councillor Byrne.
Thanks, Councillor Nation, and I'm going to support this, and I think the hesitation for not supporting it so quickly was I didn't want to second it because I wanted to speak after Councillor Sypek, because I know that, John, you're going to give a real rousing, sorry, Councillor Sypek, you're going to give a real probably rousing speech to this one, so...
You worry about that.
I'm definitely not going to be able to top that one. But I think that, you know, at the end of the day, this is our Citizen of the Year. It's incredibly important and something that is so special for so many people. We have so many amazing community people in our municipality, and we have a few days that we acknowledge the great work that they do, but this is one particularly special one, and not acknowledging it to the full extent, I don't think is particularly nice. I don't think that's what we as a council want to do. I remember back to 2017-18, which was an even bigger event before it got scaled down, and it does seem that a few of our community events have been really scaled down, even since 2021 and 2022, prior to that. Which we obviously have to make decisions how much we want to spend at these events. I completely understand that. But it's one night and it means a lot, and it might actually encourage that next wave. We know that post-COVID there has been a significant drop-off of volunteers. A lot of our sporting clubs or community groups are really struggling with those volunteer hours. Whilst there's so many volunteers that do nothing for a reward, there's also some people that might actually like to get that acknowledgement. They might see this and it might inspire them. They might keep going, they might pick up extra, they might do more. And it's just a really good way for us to say thanks for everything you do, because at the end of the day, our municipality would not function as well as it does without as many volunteers and just really good community people. Our Neighbourhood Spirit Award winners come from a variety of different backgrounds, whether they were nurses or whether they were making masks or whether they were looking after the chickens at the local community garden. We've had some fabulous Spirit winners in the past, and I hope that this grows. So thank you, Councillor Nation, for bringing this forward. I really look forward to a big celebration when the award winners are announced. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Byrne. Would any other councillor like to speak to the motion? Councillor Sypek was first.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Back in the late 90s, my predecessor, Councillor and former Mayor Trevor Sinclair, he brought to Moonee Valley the Spirit of Moonee Valley Awards. And what a great achievement that was. And he was a good Labor councillor, and he came up with a great idea. While other councils spend money going on junkets and all that, we recognise our residents. We promote our residents. We recognise their achievements and all that. I would be more than happy to bring back the spirit of Moonee Valley. Just like to bring back the Moonee Valley Festival, let's bring this back as well. And thank you, Councillor Nation, for doing this. This is what councils are about. This is what we do. We pick up rubbish, we fix the roads, and we recognise the unsung heroes of our community. But what are we doing right now? We're going to give them a couple of certificates in the back tin shed over here. Let's make this the proper thing to do. Let's make this an achievement of our residents, because our residents deserve to be recognised, and we're not doing it right now. So bring back the spirit of Moonee Valley.
Thank you, Councillor Sypek. Councillor Isaac, did you want to speak to the motion? I saw you had your hand up.
Yeah, I'd like to move an amendment that I've just circulated, thanks, Mayor, that adds or holding in conjunction with the opening of the new Jering Flemington Hub.
Thank you, Councillor Isaac. Are councillors aware of the amendment that's been moved? Councillor Sypek, so it's on the end of the motion, and it includes or holding in conjunction with the opening of the new Jering Flemington Hub. Yes, yeah, and it's also been circulated by email. Yeah. Is there a seconder? Councillor Hodgson. Councillor Isaac, would you like to speak to your amendment?
Look, if timing works out, I think it would be amazing if we held the ceremony at the opening of the new hub. That would be a true and genuine way of celebrating volunteers, many of whom might have connections to our community facilities, and it would be something a little bit different for an opening of a hub. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Isaac. Anything to add, Councillor Hodgson?
Yeah, just to say, look, I agree. The format of previous events at Clock Tower and Queen's Park have been really great and have made it available and accessible for a lot of people. And again, if the timing suits, the new Jering Flemington Hub would provide a space that I think would be able to replicate that format just in a new venue. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Hodgson. Would any other Councillor Nation?
Thanks, Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Isaac, for the amendment. Look, I won't be supporting the amendment, and my reason is that having previously been involved in the opening of facilities here, unfortunately as part of funding agreements, it's mainly about the organisations or the relevant ministers who have invested money into the facility. And that's actually part of the agreement when you do receive state government funding like we have for the Flemington Hub is you do have to obviously recognise the relevant ministers and so forth. And I've got no issues holding it at the Flemington Hub. I think that'd be a fantastic venue and a great way to showcase our city. I just don't want an event where we are celebrating the unsung heroes, our amazing citizens, to be tacked onto another event like an opening, just because there is all those boxes you have to tick with the relevant government departments for an opening. And in my opinion, that would take away from it being all about the citizens that we are trying to celebrate. So yeah, I'd support it being at the new Jering Flemington Hub, but I will not support holding it in conjunction with the opening because I do not think that does justice to celebrating the individuals the way that we want to in a Spirit Awards. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Nation. Would any other councillor like to speak to the amendment? Councillor Adams.
Thanks, Mayor. And I agree with Councillor Nation. I won't be supporting this amendment for those exact reasons. The Neighbourhood Spirit Awards is an amazing event. It's one of my favourite events, and I don't want it to be detracted by other official proceedings that will need to take place. So, but again, it is a fantastic venue, and I would support having it there, but just not in conjunction with the opening. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Adams. Would any other councillor like to speak to the amendment? Councillor Bedio.
Thanks, Mayor. Through you, I concur with Councillor Nation and Councillor Adams. I would be fully supportive of holding it at the Gering Flemington Hub, but in fact, you know, if we're setting, I guess, a precedent of looking to hold it in other places except for the civic precincts, then potentially it could be an event that we hold in different wards or different areas of the municipality every year, and we share that event around. But I don't agree with holding it in conjunction with the opening. As Councillor Nation said, I'd be concerned that the focus of the event, which should be on the Neighbourhood Spirit Awards, might be diluted a little bit if we're holding it in conjunction with the opening of the precinct. So I'm not opposed to supporting or looking at holding it at Gering Flemington Hub, but not in conjunction with the opening. So I can't support the amendment. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bedio. Would any other councillor like to speak on the amendment? I will give right of reply to Councillor Isa as there's been dissent.
I'm disappointed there's not more open-mindedness around the table about how the event might proceed. The event's held every single year, and there's an opportunity this year to do something really different. When we open a new facility, we invite a whole lot of important people. What a better occasion to celebrate our amazing community volunteers than to celebrate them at the time when there are a whole lot of important people present. I think it would elevate the status of the ceremony, it would elevate the status of their contribution to our community to hold it at such a momentous occasion. And I think that we get locked into status quo and tradition and convention around the table, and we need to be more creative and have a willingness to embrace some different ways of doing things. I think sometimes we can be way too conservative around this table. I think it would be fabulous to open a new facility by inviting hundreds of people and celebrating their contribution to our community. Given that it is a community hub, I think it would be brilliant.
Thank you, Councillor Isa. I will now put that amendment to the vote. All those in favour? That is Councillor Bedio, Councillor Hodgson, Councillor Byrne, Councillor Isa, Councillor Tyson. All those against? That is Councillor Adams, Councillor Nation, Councillor Sharp. I declare that amendment carried to form part of the substantive motion, and we return to the substantive motion with Councillor Nation and Councillor Byrne having spoken. Would any councillor like to speak to the motion? Councillor Hodgson.
Thanks, Mayor. And look, just very briefly to confirm some of the things that Councillor Nation mentioned. Yes, nominations are open at the moment, closing on the 24th of March. And people can nominate individuals, organisations or community groups according to the eligibility criteria. So as Councillor Nation said, all the info is on the website. The conversation around the table tonight, I think, indicates how much we love celebrating this and that opportunity to thank the members of our community that make it a better place to live. And I'll be very happy to support this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hodgson. Would any other councillor like to speak? Councillor Sypek.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'd like to move an amendment as well.
Amendment?
Yes, I'd like to include maybe we hold the citizenship ceremony when we have the Moonee Valley Festival return. So we've got, 85,000...
Councillor Sypek, I need exact words of what your amendment is.
Okay. I would like to include the option of celebrating the spirit of Moonee Valley while we're having the Moonee Valley Festival. The option.
Is that what we used to do?
So, Councillor Sypek, including the option of celebrating the
spirit of Moonee Valley at the Moonee Valley Festival.
I would say that potentially your amendment is in conflict with the motion itself or contrary to it.
The option.
I'll just seek advice from governance.
or the option.
Councillor Sypek, I have to rule your amendment out of order as there is no current Moonee Valley Festival. And there's no Spirit of Moonee Valley.
Well, we currently don't have a Flemington Hub open yet, have we? Rule on that.
So, Councillor Sypek, I'm receiving advice from governance who have said that your amendment isn't implementable. Would you like to rephrase?
How about we adjourn so I can get the rephrased wording that will be comfortable for you to pass? I'd like an adjournment.
Can I please move a motion to adjourn the meeting for 5 minutes, please?
Is there a seconder? Councillor Nation, would you like to speak? Would you like to speak?
I believe there is a provision, but I won't quote it, that says you can adjourn a meeting to prepare a motion in writing, and if it doesn't exist, then ignore that comment.
Thank you, Councillor Nation. Would anyone like to speak to the adjournment procedural motion? I'll put that to the vote. All those in favour? And that is carried unanimously. We'll adjourn for 5 minutes, returning at 8:19. Council meeting. Welcome back to the council meeting where Councillor Sypek requested an adjournment for his motion, his amendment, and I give the call to Councillor Sypek for your amendment.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'm going to have to ask you for a little favour. Could you read it out for me because I can't see either screen and I'm run out of battery.
I believe you have to move the motion in your own words. I might ask governance.
Just one sec.
You need to get use that microphone up there on the lectern.
Councillor Sypek, you are welcome to use the microphone at the podium. Order, councillors.
John. You can just read your amendment.
Okay. That council resolved to review the current arrangements for the presentation events of the Neighbourhood Spirit Award in consideration giving to return to the formal of the previous event, Clock Tower in 2021, Queen's Park in 2022, or holding in conjunction with the opening of the new Derong, Flemington Hub, or other major council festivals or events.
Thank you, Councillor Sypek. Is there a seconder? Councillor Sharp. Councillor Sypek.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. It's very simple. We do have a lot of major events, and if we're going to look at maybe doing it, we should explore all options, not just one or two. Let's explore all the options. So that's why I said all major council festivals. And then we have a choice. We can go from ward to ward. We can go from other area to other area. We can go from different places. So we can be inclusive with all the community. So that's the reason for my minor amendment, to include the whole of Moonee Valley and every resident.
Thank you, Councillor Sypek. Councillor Sharp.
Happy to support Councillor Sypek's motion.
Thank you, Councillor Sharp. Would any other councillor like to speak on the amendment? If not, I will put that to the vote. All those in favour? That's carried unanimously.
God.
We now return to the substantive motion. Councillor Sypek, you had the call.
Can we go put it to the vote? Can we put it to the vote?
I'll take that as your speaking time, as you need to move a procedural motion.
Moving a procedural motion.
Ask a point of clarification. Councillor Sypek's already spoken on the substantive.
I had Councillor Sypek down as having started speaking and then moved the amendment.
Previously, I thought he spoke after Councillor Byrne and gave us a recap, but anyway.
Not sure. Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Nation. Would any other councillor like to speak?
Just as a point of clarification, Mayor, because I have spoken, could you just go through who has spoken on the substantive?
I have Councillor Byrne, Councillor Nation, Councillor Hodgson, Councillor Sypek.
Maybe I can clarify because it's when I was speaking. No?
No. Thank you, Councillor
to clarify?
Sypek. Would any other councillor like to speak?
Yeah.
Councillor Sharp.
Thank you, Mayor. Look, I'm happy to support this notice of motion. I think the Neighbourhood Spirit Awards, previously known as the Spirit of Moonee Valley Awards, although in a different format, are very special for members of our community that are nominated for their volunteering efforts and everything else they do to help others within our community. So I'm happy to support looking into a fitting celebration of those awards. Thank you.
Just a point of clarification, Mr Mayor. I asked for a procedural motion for the vote to be put, and nothing happened, and you went straight to Councillor Sharp.
Councillor Sypek, you have to move a motion.
And when you clarified that with me, I said, yes, I'm happy to move the motion.
So, Councillor Sypek, you have to move a procedural motion and quote the clause.
Oh, so you want the clause quoted as well?
Yes. Thank you, Councillor Sypek.
All right, I will know next time.
Do you want me to adjourn?
Yeah, actually, I probably wouldn't mind an adjournment.
Councillors, would any other councillor like to speak?
Mayor, can I please move to adjourn for 2 minutes?
Is there a seconder? Councillor Sypek, would you like to speak?
Only that I believe that Councillor Sypek wants to get his wording right, and I think that it's very important that councillors are giving the time to be able to move whatever they might want to. Yeah.
Thank you. Councillor Sypek, would you like to speak to the procedural motion?
Mayor, could I move a point of order, please?
Yes.
Just give me a moment. I'd like to move a point of order under 55.4 that this behaviour is improper behaviour, conduct contrary to the Councillor Code of Conduct, in that it is vexatious and seeking to misdirect the way of this meeting and disrespect the procedures of the meeting.
Thank you, Councillor Isa.
Just a point of clarification, Mr. Mayor.
No, Councillor Sypek.
Please,
while I'm considering a point of order, Councillor Isa, was
clarify, Mayor, it was about seeking an adjournment at this point. The motion being moved was to try to end debate so that we could move on to a vote. Seeking an adjournment to get the words right, to end debate, to move on to a vote, is undermining good governance of this meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Isa. Councillor Sypek, you're warned. Councillor Byrne, would you like to speak to the point of order?
I'm a little bit surprised that we are speaking on it, but just that my understanding was that Councillor Sypek wanted to try to move something. He attempted. I actually think he gave it a fairly good shot in terms of what he did. For whatever reason, it wasn't done completely right. I could see what the intention was. And he needed time to get the particular clause, which I would say is very reasonable. I think that everyone should have... I don't think anyone knows every single number that is attached with every single clause on the agenda. In the governance rules. So if it takes someone a moment to do it because they want to move a motion, I've got no issues in doing that.
Thank you, Councillor Byrne. Having considered it, I will not uphold that point of order. I will caution councillors to not interrupt or talk over myself or other councillors. We'll return to the motion to adjourn.
I seek a point of clarification, please, Mayor. Could you please clarify that the correct clause for that the motion now be put is on the reverse side of the cheat sheet that all councillors have in front of them, and it's point 3 down the bottom, and it says it quite clearly, the clause that's there. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Isa. I can confirm that is correct.
Point of clarification.
Councillor Sypek.
Yes. I'd just like to know, we've had quite a few point of orders and point of clarifications, but none of my colleagues have actually specified Rule 44, Rule 55-6, or the one that I was trying to move was Rule 46. Now, I just want to know clarification. Why do I, the only councillor, have to know what rule it is, but everyone else gets away with it?
Councillor Sypek, that is not a question.
Yes, it is.
A point of clarification that can be answered.
Why am I the only one that has to specify the rules but nobody else does?
Councillor Sypek, I will warn you for the second time, and if I do it again, I will remove you from the chamber. Thank you.
How can you remove me from the chamber when I'm asking a logical question of discrimination against me? I'm the only one that has to specify the rules, but nobody else does. Shameful.
Sorry, Mayor, can I just confirm, is my motion still live?
Thank you, Councillor Byrne. I will return to the motion to adjourn. Would any councillor like to speak to the motion to adjourn? There has been a seconder, it's Councillor Sypek. If not, I'll put the motion to adjourn for 2 minutes to the vote. All those in favour? Councillor Bedio, Councillor Byrne, Councillor Nation, Councillor Sharp, Councillor Sypek. All those opposed? Councillor Adams, Councillor Hodgson, Councillor Isa, Councillor Tyson. That motion is carried and we will adjourn for 2 minutes, returning at 8:33. For Welcome back to the council meeting. We had just moved a motion for an adjournment and we've just returned. Councillors, Councillor Sypek, would you like to move a motion?
Mr Mayor. I would like to move a procedural motion, Rule 46, the subheading of 3, that the motion be now put, clause 46.5.3, as the only councillor who has to specify the clause.
Thank you, Councillor Sypek. Is there a seconder? Councillor Isa.
You're the best.
I now will put...
Can I please ask a point of clarification?
Councillor Nation.
Can I ask who hasn't spoken yet? So who are we potentially gagging?
Councillors that haven't spoken are Councillor Isa, Councillor Adams and Councillor Bedio, I believe. I now put the
Mayor,
closure...
can I ask a point of clarification?
Burn.
46.4 is that the chair may reject a procedural motion if the chair is of the opinion that the matter before the meeting has not been adequately debated. Are you accepting this motion?
Councillor Byrne, that is at the chair's discretion and I feel that the motion has been adequately debated and I'll leave it to councillors to decide. I will put the closure motion to the vote. All those in favour? That is Councillor Isa, Councillor Sharp, Councillor Sypek, Councillor Tyson. All those opposed? That is Councillor Adams, Councillor Bedio, Councillor Byrne, Councillor Hodgson, Councillor Nation. I declare that closure motion lost. We now return to debate. Would any other councillor like to speak to the motion? Councillor Adams.
Thank you, Mayor. And thank you, Councillor Nation, for bringing this motion. I fully support making the Neighbourhood Spirit Awards a fabulous event at one of our wonderful previous locations that we've had it at, or any other major council festivals or events. The Neighbourhood Spirit Awards, as I said before, is one of my favourite events, and I think that we should definitely adequately celebrate that event and celebrate all the wonderful volunteers in our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Adams. Would any other councillor like to speak? If not, I will put the substantive motion to the vote. All those in favour? That is Councillor Adams, Councillor Bedio, Councillor Byrne, Councillor Hodgson, Councillor Isa, Councillor Nation, Councillor Sharp, Councillor Sypek, Councillor Tyson, and that is carried unanimously. The next item is urgent business. Councillors, do we have any urgent business? We now move on to confidential reports, and we have one listed on the agenda this evening, and that is 12.1, contract number TDR 203060, Move Riverside Golf and Sports Management and Operations Contract Extension. And item 12.1 is considered confidential under the terms of section 3(1) of the Local Government Act 2020, as it contains information relating to A, council business information, being information that would prejudice council's position in commercial negotiations if prematurely released. F, personal information, being information which, if released, would result in the unreasonable disclosure of information that about any person or their personal affairs. And G, private commercial information, being information provided by a business, commercial or financial undertaking that, 2, if released, would unreasonably expose the business, commercial or financial undertaking to disadvantage, as it contains commercial in confidence contractual information. Councillors, I need a mover and seconder that Council resolves to close the meeting to the public pursuant to Section 66(2) of the Local Government Act 2020 to consider the aforementioned item. Councillors, do I have a mover and seconder? Councillor Isa, seconded Councillor Bedio. I'll put that to the vote. That is Councillor Adams, Councillor Bedio, Councillor Hodgson, Councillor Isa, Councillor Sharp, Councillor Tyson. All those opposed? Councillor Byrne. That is carried. We now close the meeting to members of the public. Thank you for your patience tonight and thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time.